My cheating ex told me to get over it, but I uncovered his affair and how he chose her over me. I thought I had moved on from the pain. My ex told me to simply get over it, dismissing all the hurt he had caused. But deep down, I knew there was more to the story. I had always believed that once love was lost, life would slowly mend itself. Instead, I discovered the shocking truth. While I was left to pick up the pieces of my broken heart, he had chosen someone else. Not just any woman, but the one he swore he loved more than me. Every message, every secret rendezvous confirmed that he had built an entirely new life, a life in which I never belonged. His betrayal was not just a fleeting mistake. It was an ongoing affair, a cold, calculated decision to leave me behind. The more I uncovered, the more it became clear that his indifference was his way of justifying his actions. I could no longer ignore the evidence. I had to confront the past and expose how he chose her over me, reclaiming my story from the ashes of his betrayal. Love makes you blind. That was what people always said, but I never believed it, until I found myself drowning in the illusion of a perfect relationship. I had given my all to my ex, trusting him completely. I believed in the late-night phone calls, the soft reassurances, the plans we made for the future. To me, he was everything. To him, I was just an option. Looking back, the signs were there, but love had a way of masking reality. He was always on his phone, always texting someone. When I asked, he laughed it off, saying it was work or just a group chat with friends. Sometimes, he would leave the room to answer a call, claiming he did not want to disturb me. I wanted to believe him. I convinced myself that he was just busy, that relationships went through phases, that I had no reason to doubt the man I loved. Then there were the nights he came home late, his excuses rehearsed yet unconvincing. He started picking fights over nothing, turning small disagreements into reasons to storm out. I blamed myself. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe I was overthinking. But deep inside, something felt off. My heart told me something was wrong, but my love for him silenced the warning. Until the day everything fell apart. One evening, after another argument over nothing, he looked me in the eye and said, "You need to get over it." His voice was cold, detached, like I was the problem, like my feelings were a burden. That was when I knew. He had already checked out of our relationship. I just did not know why. We had been together for 3 years, and for most of that time, I believed we were happy. We met through mutual friends at a party, and from the moment we started talking, everything felt effortless. He was charming, funny, and made me feel like I was the only person in the room. I fell for him hard. The first year was perfect. Weekend getaways, long drives with the music blasting, late-night talks where we shared our dreams. He told me he wanted to marry me one day. He promised we were building something real. And I believed him. But after that first year, things started to change. The sweet messages became shorter, the effort faded, and I started feeling like I was the only one holding the relationship together. He always had excuses, work stress, family issues, needing space. I wanted to be understanding, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I did not realize that while I was fighting for us, he had already moved on. The night he told me to get over it, something inside me shifted. It was not just the words, it was the way he said them. Dismissive. Cold. Like I was foolish for caring. Like I was making a big deal out of nothing. But I was not stupid. My gut had been screaming at me for months, and I had ignored it for far too long. That night, as he stormed out to clear his head, I sat in silence, replaying everything in my mind. The sudden changes in his behavior, the growing distance, the way he always seemed preoccupied with his phone, the way he would turn it upside down on the table whenever I was near. I had let my trust in him blind me, but now I was done ignoring the truth. I needed proof. I started small, checking his social media. His activity was strange. He had stopped posting pictures of us months ago. Before, he would tag me in everything, but now it was like I barely existed in his online world. I scrolled through his old posts, comparing them to now, noticing the subtle yet undeniable shift. Then, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A comment under one of his photos. A simple inside joke, seemingly harmless, from a woman I had never seen before. The way she worded it felt too personal. And when I clicked on her profile, my suspicions grew stronger. She was beautiful, no doubt. But it was not her looks that caught my attention. It was the familiarity of the places in her photos. The same restaurants we had dined at. The same beach he had claimed to visit alone. The same weekend trip he told me was for work. She had been there too. My heart pounded as I scrolled further. Every new post, every small detail, painted a picture I did not want to see. I could feel my world cracking beneath me, but I needed more. I needed undeniable proof. So, I did something I never thought I would do. I went through his phone. He had left it charging in the living room before storming out. My hands were shaking as I picked it up, my mind screaming that I should not have to do this. That if I needed to go through his phone, I already had my answer. But I needed to see it with my own eyes. I unlocked his phone. And there it was. A thread of messages, hidden under a fake name in his contacts. It did not take long to figure out who it was. The same woman from the comments. The same woman from the photos. My breath caught in my throat as I scrolled through their texts. Long, intimate conversations filled with words he had once said to me. Plans to meet, secret rendezvous, confessions of love. My heart shattered. But it was not just her. There were others. 2, maybe 3 different women. Some texts were months old, others just days. He had been living a double life, lying to me while telling these women everything I had once believed was mine alone. I felt sick, angry, but most of all, I felt foolish. I had spent so long defending him, justifying his behavior, convincing myself that I was overreacting. And all along, he had been betraying me. I put his phone down, my hands trembling. My chest felt tight, but for the first time in months, my mind was clear. I was done. He had told me to get over it. I was about to show him exactly what that meant. I sat in silence, staring at his phone. The weight of the truth pressed down on me, suffocating yet liberating all at once. He had been cheating on me, lying to my face while building a secret life behind my back. And now I had all the proof I needed. But proof was not enough. I needed him to see what he had done. I needed him to face it, to know that I was not the naive fool he thought I was. He came home late that night, reeking of alcohol and arrogance, as if nothing had happened. As if he had not shattered everything we had built. He glanced at me briefly, before flopping onto the couch. "Are we still doing this?" he sighed, rubbing his temples. "Because I am exhausted." The audacity of his words fueled my rage. I reached for his phone, which I had placed beside me, and unlocked it effortlessly. His eyes widened when he saw it in my hand. "What the hell? Why do you have my—" I cut him off. "You should be careful about leaving this around. Someone might find out what you have been up to." His face paled. I turned the screen toward him, showing him the messages. His messages. The ones he thought I would never see. The room fell into a suffocating silence. His eyes darted between me and the phone, searching for an escape, a lie, an excuse. Anything to undo what I had just done. "That is not what it looks like," he blurted out. A bitter laugh escaped me. "It looks like you have been cheating on me with multiple women for months. So, tell me, what is it supposed to look like?" His jaw tightened. "It is complicated." "No." I snapped, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "It is simple. You betrayed me. Lied to me. Repeatedly. And then had the nerve to tell me to get over it. Were you expecting me to just sit here and accept this?" He rubbed his face, frustration creeping into his voice. "Look, things between us have not been great. I did not mean for it to happen, but—" I scoffed. "Spare me the excuses. You meant for all of it to happen. You made plans. You sent messages. You met them in the same places we used to go. This was not an accident. It was a choice." His silence was all the confirmation I needed. I stood up, feeling the power shift between us. "I am done," I said, my voice firm. "You do not get to break me and then tell me how to feel about it." For the first time that night, real fear flashed across his face. "Wait," he said, reaching for my hand. "We can work through this. It was a mistake." I pulled away, shaking my head. "No. A mistake is forgetting to text back. A mistake is losing track of time. This was a decision. And I have made mine." He tried to argue, but I was no longer listening. I grabbed my bag, my heart pounding with both pain and freedom. "You wanted me to get over it?" I said, standing at the door. "Consider it done." As I walked away, I did not look back. Because for the first time in a long time, I knew my worth. And I was finally choosing myself. In the days that followed, the reality of my decision hit me harder than I expected. I had walked away, but it felt like the ground beneath me had crumbled, leaving me unsure of where I stood. The life I had built with him, the dreams we shared, all of it felt like a distant memory, fading into something I could not quite grasp. But I refused to let myself be consumed by the pain. I had made the choice to leave, and no matter how difficult it was, I knew it was the right one. There were moments when I would be reminded of him, an old song playing on the radio, a memory flashing in my mind. But I knew I had to keep moving forward. I was rebuilding myself, one step at a time. I reached out to close friends and family for support, and they were there for me in ways I hadn't expected. My best friend took me out for long walks, listening to me vent as I poured my heart out. My sister brought over dinner and stayed with me until late into the night, not once pushing me to feel better before I was ready. It was in those quiet moments, when I allowed myself to grieve, that I began to see the truth more clearly. The hurt and betrayal had cut deep, but the love I had for myself, the respect I was regaining, made it easier to face each new day. Then came the letter, the divorce papers. I had sent them a week after my confrontation with him, and I had received his response just a few days ago. His words were filled with anger, guilt, and blame. He tried to twist the narrative, painting himself as the victim in all of this. He called me heartless for walking away, for breaking up our family. But I had long stopped caring about his narrative. He had already made his choice, and now I was making mine. I opened the letter, reading through his response, the sting of his words barely making a mark. "You'll regret this," he wrote, "and you'll see how hard it is when you're alone." I laughed softly, shaking my head. He had always assumed I could not live without him. that my whole world revolved around our relationship. But in reality, I had spent too many years sacrificing my own happiness to keep him satisfied. Now it was time to live for me. As the days passed, I found myself growing stronger. I enrolled in a yoga class, something I had always wanted to try but had never made time for. I began reading books I had forgotten about, discovering new passions that I had neglected for far too long. The more I invested in myself, the more I realized how much I had allowed his actions to define me. I was not broken. I was not a victim. I was learning to stand tall again. One evening, a few weeks later, I received a message from him. My heart skipped a beat when I saw his name on the screen. For a moment, I thought about ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the message. It was a simple text. I made a huge mistake. I still love you. I stared at the words, a mixture of anger and pity flooding over me. He was trying to rewrite history, to undo everything he had done. I knew what I had to do. I deleted the message without replying, feeling the weight lift off my chest as I did. I was done. I had no need for his apologies. The only person I needed to apologize to was myself. As the months went by, I found peace. The anger I once felt toward him turned into indifference. His actions no longer held power over me. I no longer woke up thinking about him, wondering what he was doing or if he regretted his choices. I had my own life now, one that was no longer tainted by his betrayal. Then something unexpected happened. I met someone new. His name was Adam, and he was kind, genuine, and patient. He respected my space and my pace, never rushing me into anything I was not ready for. We started off slow, enjoying simple things like walks in the park and late-night conversations about life, love, and dreams for the future. He did not try to fix me or save me. He simply let me be myself. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe with someone again. But even as I allowed myself to trust Adam, I knew that my happiness no longer depended on him or anyone else. It was a gift I had given to myself. One day, I found myself looking in the mirror, smiling at the reflection staring back at me. The person I saw was stronger, more confident, and more alive than I had ever been. I had taken control of my life. I had stopped waiting for someone else to decide my worth. And that was when I realized, no one can ever take away the power of self-love. If you found this story compelling and relatable, do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another story.